Normally, when you go into a movie theater, you at least have some general idea of the film you're about to watch. Whether you've seen the trailer, read the synopsis of the storyline, or looked at the Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb score. Well, that is, unless you're me. I went into this film completely blind. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know who the director was. I didn't even know how long the movie was going to be. But what I did know is that Kantara has been all the rage in India lately. So naturally, because of my recent interest in Indian cinema, I decided I would go see this one in theaters. And so, on a breezy Saturday night with absolutely no expectations, I sat down in a crowded theater to experience this movie. And after it was all over, I couldn't help but think to myself, that was almost perfect. The story begins in 1847 when a king gifts the forest to the local tribes as long as he is protected by their god Panjali Daiva. The king is warned that if he goes back on his word, he will suffer the wrath of the god. We then fast forward to 1970, where the descendant of the king shows up to the local Butakola performance and asks for the forest land back. The performer is the main character Shiva's father and is possessed by the god. He warns of the consequences of going back on his ancestors' word, but then runs into the forest where he mysteriously disappears in a ring of fire. We then fast forward to the 1990s, where Shiva is a grown man and a Kambala or bull racing champion who spends his days carefree. But everything changes when a brutal new forest officer arrives in the village with a mission to convert their land to reserve forests. This event sends Shiva and his friends on a journey to save their land as well as their culture. Now, like I said, I wasn't sure if this movie was going to be an action flick, a drama, a biopic, or a freaking romantic comedy. But what it turned out to be was a film about the struggle between the common people and the government that is supposed to protect their rights and culture, but so often fails. It also deals with the importance of tradition and religion and how it often acts as the bedrock of communities. It was refreshing to see these aspects portrayed in such a positive light. Kantara has astoundingly well choreographed action scenes, a compelling story that is elevated greatly by the supernatural aspects, and brilliant visuals that are truly unforgettable. I absolutely love the cinematography in this movie, as so many of the shots were so creative and drew you in, especially the action scenes, which were perfectly framed to allow the audience to see everything that was happening. There's a little bit of shaky cam here and there, but it's very subtle, and it was actually utilized in a way that benefited the scenes rather than hindering them. I really only had a couple issues with the technicalities of this movie, but I'll get into that in a bit. Kantara's story is deeply rooted in the cultural traditions of a particular tribe of people in Karnataka who are known for having divine mediums perform a Bhuta Kola, which is an animistic ritual dance. The mediums are said to have the power to channel deities, who then speaks through them directly to the local villagers in order to solve disputes and bless the community. The performer is dressed in incredibly ornate outfits and multicolored face paint, and honestly looks a little freaky. I'm obviously American, so I had to do a lot of research to understand what exactly the Bhuta was, but from what I can tell with my limited knowledge, Kantara seems to be a fairly accurate portrayal in that respect. I heard some people online were complaining about the way the performance was portrayed, but I honestly don't know enough about it to even begin to have an opinion on that. What I thought was so cool about this movie was the supernatural elements that are infused into the story. I'm a sucker for weird, otherworldly imagery, and Kantara has some truly unique and unsettling images, mainly dealing with the Bhuta performer. And I have to mention the fact that the performer, when possessed, for the most part just screams, "Whoa!" which was so strange, but in the best way. It adds this sense that the entity controlling the performer is some being from another dimension that communicates and expresses itself in a totally foreign way. It's little artistic touches like this that make this film so interesting and fun to watch. I think if you take away the supernatural aspects, Kantara would still definitely be a good film, but not the great one that it is. So the title of this video is Kantara Almost Perfect. It came so close to being an absolute masterpiece, but was unfortunately weighed down by a couple technical aspects. I know I always complain about it, but again, this movie is just too long. The beginning starts off great, and the last act of the film is literally one of the most intense and satisfying conclusions to any movie I have ever seen. But the middle is where the film struggles the most, and I found myself starting to lose interest. Another gripe is the humor. Now don't get me wrong, I was cracking up a lot, but tonally it's wildly inconsistent when it jumps from a completely serious scene to a silly joke that took me out of the film more than once. I wish the writers would have stuck to making it either a comedy or a serious drama, because trying to combine the two equally just doesn't work very often. If these issues had been addressed, I think it would have been a perfect film because that ending really blew me away. I just felt the lead up to it and the issue of the humor held it back. Kantara is a bold and visually stunning film that almost lives up to the hype. It's a film that celebrates tradition and culture while taking you on a journey you won't forget. And for me, although not perfect, it was an absolute joy to watch. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video and want to see more like it, destroy the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you later.